Welcome back everyone, and welcome to today's video. And in this video we are going to cover how to make your first $10,000 with 3D printing. And what I want to do in this video is give you guys a couple of key lessons that I've learned over the past 4 years, and more or less what you should do if you wanted to start a business with 3D printing, and more or less what I would do if I had to start all over from scratch and I needed to make money with this business. Now, over the past 2 years, 3D printing has expanded so much that you can basically have full-fledged manufacturing farms within your home with just 2 to 3 to 4 printers. You really don't need a print farm nowadays. And if you want a print farm, you can absolutely have one. For me, I have 2 Bambu Labs X1 carbons, and honestly, these printers work really well, and I love these printers, and truthfully, I probably may want to have another one, but I don't really need it because the efficiency of printers like these work really well. And what these printers allow me to do is it allows me to create new products, prototype those products, and bring those products to market. And when it comes to 3D printing, I still believe that the ways of making money with 3D printing is still slightly outdated. And if you really want to succeed in this and build a brand or a business from this, you got to approach this differently with a different mindset. And what I want to do in this video is kind of show you exactly what that mindset looks like, and as well as the existing mindset for the existing market, and exactly what you need to do to get out of it if you're doing it this way. Now, the first thing is that the problems with running a 3D printing business is that a lot of it's still the old-fashioned way. And the old-fashioned way looks like this, right? One is having to build an inventory and a list of a whole bunch of products. So tell me if this is you. You get a 3D printer and then you think you can make money with it. So you decide to get a whole bunch of commercial licenses from people that create their own designs, and then you can sell those designs, those 3D printed versions of it, right? And then you having to print those items, take photos of it, and then get a whole bunch of inventory of a whole bunch of different things from different creators, and hopefully that one of those, 2 of those, or 3 of those will sell. Like, you have to make an ROI on your commercial license purchase, so you have to build an inventory, and that means you having to print it, that means you having to take product photos, that means you having to use your filaments and materials. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with doing it that way, but having to build an inventory means that you're just going to be scattered all over the place with a whole bunch of different niche products, which means that it makes it hard to scale and actually build a brand or a business, because instead of just being a business that revolves around one thing, is a business that just sells a whole bunch of stuff and hopefully makes money from it. Now, don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with that, and you can absolutely make a killing from that. But if you long term, you need to focus on a niche or a brand or a strategy that allows you to focus on one set of products or type of products, so that way you can niche down and then build a portfolio or design base of things that you've made, right? But that's the old way, right? Second is using just one traffic source such as Etsy to get sales. Now, right now, Etsy is probably one of the best places for getting easy traffic. And don't get me wrong, Etsy is great, but time and time again, I've seen it over and over where Etsy does suspend people for no good reason. And if you are a seller on Etsy, even if you're doing nothing wrong, it still happens. Go on Reddit, go on YouTube, you will still see people who've been legitimate sellers for years with multiple hundreds 5-star reviews and getting shut down out of the blue. Now, these are extreme examples, and I don't want to scare you off if you were selling on Etsy. But my point here is that Etsy is one of those platforms that they can just easily take away your livelihood, and I would hate for anyone to lose their livelihood, which is the old way of doing it. Because if you're just relying on Etsy, that means you're just relying that one day that they don't accidentally or purposely shut you down. And even more so, since the 3D printing space is filled with copyrighted stuff, and I'm not going to get into the legalities of that type of thing, but what I'm trying to say is that there is a lot of stuff in the 3D printing space that is copyrighted, but people take those copyrighted stuff and they relist it on Etsy, and they're kind of floating in the boat here. Like, they're kind of shifting in the waves quite often, because you're basically selling copyrighted stuff on Etsy, and if Etsy gets a notice from an attorney representing from one of these companies that is a copyrighted material, then you're going to get shut down, and that's what I would want to avoid for you guys. Of course, if you want to keep doing that, go right ahead. I'm not going to say whether you should or shouldn't, but that's just my opinion on it, right? Also, competing on price with hundreds of other sellers who also probably have a commercial license to sell what you're selling. So here's the thing. what makes you different from someone else who also has a 3D printer? I have a 3D printer too. What makes me different from you? Is it the product? Let's just say we have the same commercial license to one of these creators that we have online. I mean, what would make me different? Probably nothing. I probably have more filament than you. I probably could cheap price it down if I wanted to, right? If you're trying to make a business, you're not trying to compete or build a business. You're not trying to compete on price, and you're not trying to compete on quality or quantity or variety. Truthfully, you could do that, but you'd be tiring yourself out. And unfortunately, you're not Amazon where you can just spend a whole bunch of money and not see the ROI for years. My point being here is that if someone like myself or another person who also has another printer, or another person across the world who has also a printer, it's very difficult to compete on price, because Etsy is one of those places where there's multiple listings of the same products from different people. And especially if you have a commercial license from one of these creators, then if a creator's design does really well, now there's suddenly a whole bunch of people also selling that creator's design on Etsy, and now it's just a price war to the bottom, which unfortunately is not a way to grow business, because I'm not trying to compete on price. I would rather compete on great products and making good stuff that people would want to buy. And that's the old way of doing it, having to list a whole bunch of inventory, having only one place where you can sell, which could be taken away from you, and then also having to compete on price with everyone else because I did not differentiate myself enough. And that's the old way, and most people do not succeed, and only a handful of people do succeed. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with this, because in the beginning you need to start somewhere, but long term you need to start rethinking your approach if you really want to build a brand or a business using these machines. Now, here's the new way. The new way looks like this. You create a brand or a niche of products around things you already know and like. So one really good example is that I saw this guy on Instagram who's selling he's selling like SD card holders that you mount to the back of your MacBook. And that's actually a really good idea, because you can 3D print the part, and the part is only like this big. Like the SD card is really not that big. So the printed part is actually probably less than 50 grams of filament, but if he can retail it for $20, 50 grams of filament plus shipping plus labor costs, probably less than $5 in terms total to just print and have everything put together. And then if he sells it for $20, that's $15 in profit before taxes and other expenses. And additionally, he's forwarding those people to his website instead of Etsy. And now those are his customers, not Etsy customers, right? And that's the thing, because he's building a brand or a business around things that he likes. Another one that I saw on Instagram was someone using Formula One tracks or race cars, where they 3D print the tracks, and not the whole track. I mean, like just outlines of the track. And then they kind of use like images or photos of the tracks itself, and they frame it up on the wall. And there's like a very creative way of using 3D printing and using it in a form of artistic fashion, which allows them to sell it for more money, like $50-$60. And even though it's like cheap $5 plastic, it's very big and different. But they're building brands, they're building businesses. They're using 3D printing not to sell a whole bunch of stuff. They're using 3D printing to sell stuff they already know and like. And if you're able to do this, this will help you out immensely. And it could be whatever it is. I mean, truthfully, for me, I really like storage crates. I've made my brand off of storage crates. And these are very simple. And honestly, these are very simple things. These are not the newest product. These are not. This isn't a new thing, right? So you got to build a brand off of products that you like and trust. And if you're able to do that, then you can build a business or a brand, and you don't even have to build new products. Sometimes it could just be different colors, different styles, different artwork, stuff like that, right? So that's my point. So figure out, and that's niching down. That's the hard part. But once you niche down, you need to use multiple traffic sources and build your customer base. So one big thing, instead of just relying on one place, you need to use different traffic sources like Pinterest. We can use like TikTok. We can use Instagram. We can use YouTube Shorts. There's so many platforms that you can market on. You can use, you can post on forums and our communities. You can share your projects that you're working on. My point here is that you need to utilize different places rather than just one. So that way you're taking all this traffic where you're promoting your products into one place, which is your own store, which is your own brand. Or if you still want to use Etsy, you can go ahead and do that. But the sellers that I know that are doing really well, they are all funneling all their traffic into one place where they host all their products, and then they get those sales from that. And that also what allows you to do is that if you have your own store, that allows you to reuse those customer emails and build a subscriber database of those people who purchase your designs. And now you can remarket them, where on Etsy, you're not remarketing to them because you don't get their email, you don't get their name, or at least some information about them. So it makes it hard to remarket to your customers other than just trying to message them and ask them for feedback, right? So that's my point here. And lastly, the new way, building income streams by using your portfolio of products to sell physically, digitally, or through a license. Now, here's the really cool thing about creating 3D printed products is that if you have a brand or a niche of products that you design and make, and you have your own customer of products or customer database of people who purchase your products, one really cool thing about that is that you can also reformat those designs into digital files such as STL licenses or STL files, and or turn those STL files into a portfolio and turn it into a membership which you can sell to people who would want to essentially get access to sell your designs. So you're basically building an active income stream, a passive income stream, and somewhat a semi-passive income stream with memberships, right? So you're selling physical products, STLs, and then memberships. And now you go from one source of income, you go through one source of income now to 3 sources of income, which is super cool. One that's reoccurring, one that has higher profit margins, which is your physical products, and one that has lower profit margins but is more or less passive through STL files. And that's the really cool thing with this, because if you're able to do that, now you have 3 sources of income, which allows you to funnel more and more cash into your business, create new stuff, new products, new designs, and now you can exponentially expand what you're doing and turn it into a brand or empire in your portfolio. And now you become a solopreneur into a creator, and from a creator to a designer and to an artist, a brand, and stuff like that, right? And that's the thing that I think most of the 3D printing market is missing right now. And truthfully, I want you guys to do a little bit of research. Go and look at your favorite creator right now who is selling memberships. I promise you, any creator right now that is selling memberships is probably, or who is at least making a good amount of money on memberships, they are not selling their 3D prints anymore. Like everyone who sells memberships or digital files, they transition from selling their prints, their 3D printed stuff, and they move on to memberships and digital files because it just makes more sense. So, and that's kind of like the latter path, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a bit. So for example, in the very beginning, we have our physical products, and this is where everyone starts here, right? So we have our physical products. This is stuff that you make and you design. But as you go up this ladder, there's a new set of skill sets you need to learn, which I'll go into in just a bit, which allows you, when you learn these skill sets, now you can create STL files, and then using those STL files, once you have like a portfolio of, let's just say 5 to 10 designs, now you can transition to selling memberships, which you can charge for like $10 a month if you want. And that $10 a month, let's just say times 100 people, right? That's $1,000 every single month, reoccurring income, plus the STL files that you're selling, right? And then plus the physical products you're selling. So you can see very easily how very quickly this compounds. And if you do this well, you can transition from selling, or you can sell the physical stuff, you can sell the STL files or memberships, or when you have a solid portfolio of physical products, then you can transition to selling STL files, or once you have a solid portfolio of STL files, then you can just transition out of physical products and then move just up to memberships and as well as STL files. And now you're building a business off of passive income, right? So I'm trying to draw this out here, not so good. And then active, I would say semi-active. And I say semi-active because when it comes to memberships, you still need to provide value to your audience. And memberships, people still expect something from you. You have to create new products, new designs, and stuff like that, right? So as you ascend up this ladder, like I said, you have to learn how to create digital files, right? If you transition from selling physical stuff, you need to learn how to create those digital files. You also need to learn how to market those files, because you just can't expect people to just find it. You need to market it. You need to distribute it. You need to post it on the proper platforms to get maximum exposure. And then once you move into selling STL files, now you have another source of income, assuming that people are buying and like your designs. And now you can move up the ladder and get your first batch of members, which when you transition to memberships, it's much more difficult and different because you need to get those first few people to join your membership, which you need to get them to join by offering or getting beta members, which is your first few members, Once you get your first few members, now you get to learn how to build communities, because building a membership is basically building a community. And if you're not building a community around people who know, like, and trust your stuff, it makes it very difficult to keep those people on board. So like I said, it's a whole different mindset. If you're selling physical products, it's a whole different mindset. You're selling physical stuff. You know your time is capped. You know you're going to probably have to build a print farm if you really want to scale physical products, which is totally fine. But if you really want to do that, then you go right ahead and do it. But for most of us, I personally don't want a print farm, or at least I don't want to have one anytime soon. So if I wanted to sell physical stuff and sell like hundreds of thousands of dollars in physical stuff, I know I would have to have a print farm. Like, just hands down, it's impossible to do that type of revenue goal without a print farm. Probably even 10 grand a month consistently. Consistently 10 grand a month, I would probably need a print farm, and I don't want to have a print farm, right? Next up the list is STL files. Cool thing about STL files is that you can sell this file. It's a one and done. You sell it, and now someone has access to it, and you get your income from that. The only issue is that you would have to sell more and more STL files and quantity in order to make that income goal that you want to hit for yourself, compared to physical products, which the margins are a little bit higher, where STL files might just be the cost of like a Starbucks cup of coffee, while physical products might be the cost of like maybe a dinner for, you know, like a cheap dinner, if that makes sense. So my point here is that it's a very different mindset, and as you scale up this ladder, when you get to memberships, which is like the ultimate goal for most people, once you get there, now you have to learn how to build communities. You have to learn how to keep those customers happy, and how to make sure they don't leave your membership, because if they leave your membership, then you lose out on that money. So here's a couple of key takeaways from this video. The first thing I would highly do, if you really want to hit that income goal of 10K per month, you need to learn 3D modeling and CAD. Create your own stuff. Find a software that works best for you. It doesn't matter what software it is. Just like do it. Take action on it. I promise you, if you don't take action on it, you will not move forward on this. Second, focus on a niche of products and create a portfolio. In the beginning, don't try to jump to STL files or memberships. Just focus on creating stuff, making stuff that you know, like, and create, and present it to the world, right? You can't expect to jump from a complete beginner all the way to memberships and all these things, right? You need to start from scratch. You need to start somewhere. And if you don't start from somewhere, it makes it very hard to build a business, and especially in the beginning. Now, keep in mind, you don't have to build like these crazy products or these new inventions. You don't have to do that. Sometimes you can just recreate what's existing in the market. Some people are really into lamps. Some people are really into knowing how to design flexies and selling flexies. Some people are really into, let's just say, designing like the artwork that I was talking about with the formula cards, or like I said, the SD card holder, right? You don't need to come up with new creations or designs. Sometimes you probably are watching this video and you probably made something of your own that solved the problem for you. And if it solved the problem for you, see whether or not someone else would also want to buy that from you as well. And you can take that to market and see whether people react to it in a good way. And if they do, now you have a product that you can sell and market to people. And then lastly, using social platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Shorts, Pinterest, right? And then using Shopify to build your customer base, because when you build your customer base on your own platforms, you have more leverage. No one can take that away from you, and that's your email list, and that's your email list for life. So hopefully this video has been insightful and informative. I know this video has been a whole I tossed a lot of stuff and information at you guys, but I want to make sure that you guys can hit those revenue goals, whatever it is in your business. And this is more or less like a rant in a sense, but I want to make sure that the point comes across very clear, and that you guys can monetize your work, your designs, your products, build a brand, and build a brand around your niche that you are really into. So that way you don't have to struggle finding a whole bunch of inventory for products, or having to figure out where your next commercial license works out or not. Like, that's not the goal of this, all right? And if you truly want to build a business from this, you need to reframe your mindset from where it is now and shift it into the direction you want to go, and focus on one thing and getting good at that, and then ascending up the ladder like I showed you guys in this video. So hopefully this video has been insightful and informative. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Peace.